Baltimore is currently in the middle of one of the largest police scandals of recent memory, certainly of my memory. And as this case continues, some of the information coming out about what these cops were getting up to is pretty shocking. So there's this particular squad that had been like accosting drug dealers and stealing money, and then it goes even past that. It gets into extreme police brutality territory. So we want to give you those details. Prosecutors say that the squad, which was tasked with getting illegal guns off the streets, abused its power by robbing suspects and innocent people, raiding homes without warrants, and selling confiscated drugs, among other crimes. So conceivably one part of the squad, I guess, could then bust the other part of the squad if they wanted to. Detective Maurice Ward, who's already pleaded guilty to corruption charges, testified that he and his partners were also told to carry gun replicas and BB guns, quote, in case we accidentally hit somebody or got into a shootout so we could plant them. The directive allegedly came from the team's sergeant, Wayne Jenkins, according to the Washington Post. And so we don't know for sure yet if anyone actually used that advice, although there is evidence that they did. Detective Marcus Taylor, another cop currently swept up in the scandal, was carrying a fake gun almost identical to his service weapon when he was arrested last year, according to the Sun. And so this sort of advice not only stops you from actually understanding why a shooting happened or why somebody was killed by the cops, but might make it more likely to happen in the future.
So this partly explains all the toy guns you always hear about when people are shot. Oh, somebody was shot, and oh, but you can understand it was an innocent misunderstanding because he was holding a toy gun. I'm like, there's that many toy guns in the world? And so some of them, I'm sure, were real toy guns, and some of them apparently were not. And this is too common.
Or were toy guns, but they weren't actually that person's toy guns, and it's sort of a get out of justice free card for the cops in that case. But then if we could just go back to the busting the drug dealers for a second, the sums of money that are involved are pretty big. So at one point, this squad stopped a drug dealer during a traffic stop, took $6,500 from him, apparently found out where his home was, went there, busted in without a warrant, and took $100,000 out of a safe, which was just then theirs, I guess. I mean, he's a criminal, so who is he going to turn to? But that's not what the cops are supposed to be doing there. And apparently what they would do in some cases was they would stop a drug dealer and then ask them for insider information, saying things like, if you had a squad, where would you go to break in to try to get money or drugs or something like that? So they were sort of flipping the drug dealers, not to score arrests, but to score drugs and cash for their own gain.
So I want to talk about one other thing that is particularly terrible about this story. One of the reasons that they kept toy guns around was to plant it on kids they would shoot.
Yeah. So
they knew that they would sometimes get into what they called shootouts or just flat out shooting. One of the things that they would do, for example, to give you a sense of it, is they drive really fast into a crowd of people or kids that were standing around and stop suddenly, and then whoever ran, they would chase. Now, do they know who was in the crowd? No. Do they have any information on them? No. They did it just to harass these people, etc. And then, as you've seen in some cases, people would get shot, and then sometimes from the back. And so after they shoot them, if they're kids, what makes sense? Oh, they had a toy gun. So it is as bad as it gets. Now, look, 6 out of the 8 have already pled guilty. So this is not conjecture. This is absolute reality. One of the terrible stories coming out of it is one of the cops was set to testify against the other cops. The night before the testimony, he wound up getting shot by his own gun. What a coincidence. And so they haven't solved that one yet. My guess is it is related to the cops he was going to testify against.
Yeah. You just watched a video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.